This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, NIT champs, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, though, is if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. So thank you so much for joining us and what we're going to be doing this evening on episode 167 of the Auburn Experience podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kyle Loomis, who barely made it in, literally, physically, mentally, emotionally after this game this evening and many other things, but in a much better state of mind, health-wise and in state of mind tonight is the other co-host for the show, Mr. Austin Scott. We're back. We made it, sir.
We're back. We made it. War Eagle. It's Auburn Experience after dark tonight, and so that's what you're getting. There's plenty to talk about after a long day. It's good for both of us, and a long day, I must say, though, but that we can look back on. But he is risen, Kyle.
He is risen indeed, and that is the most important thing that we need to reiterate today at the start of our show. Certainly, we know you're here for the Auburn content, but we hope Austin and I obviously don't shy away from this topic. We want you all to know Jesus as your Savior, and if you ever need to talk to us about that, have questions about it, or just want to debate about it, you know, I wouldn't say Austin's probably much better in that category than I am, so I just opened up myself to, being, I don't know, shown up or something like that. But the point is this: today is a very special day, and he is risen. He is risen indeed. So thank you for starting us off with that, Austin. And not to just brush that aside, but my goodness, we have a show to this evening to talk about. Normally, this is the part of the show where you and I just chit chat for a second. You good if we bypass
get on
that?
in it? Get on
in it. Just get on it. So, folks, for those of you that said Auburn basketball should not even be touching the NIT, should not be even given the time of day, take your ball and go home. This team is horrible. Never want to see them again. Boy, what an afternoon and what an evening you've had with Auburn now being the NIT national. I don't know if you can add national in there. NIT champions. Your Tigers are victorious in an exciting overtime win over Tulsa, 92-86. So if you're just joining us on the live portion of the show, this isn't a true post-game reaction show. This is just us doing it kind of off the cuff. We're doing it live right here off the cuff. And you know the reference I'm talking about there?
I do.
Okay. We just minus the language in it. But we're here to talk about that. Definitely we'll look across the whole scope of that journey here too. But let's get a little initial reaction. This happened just 10 minutes ago of us recording this, Austin. 92-86, Auburn beats Tulsa. How are we feeling?
Yeah, obviously excited. Auburn goes through and wins the NIT. The first NIT in championship in Auburn program history, the first postseason national tournament championship for any team in the state of Alabama. And so I think there's a lot of people who didn't want to play this. You've mentioned that. There's a lot of people who didn't think Auburn was too high and mighty to go to this tournament and play it. The people of 10, 15 years ago scoff at that. The ones who followed this team 10, 15 years ago scoff at that remark. Mm-hmm. But Auburn did exactly what they should do and went through the tournament anyway and played basketball. As Stephen Pearl has said many times, they're here to play basketball, coach basketball, and that's what they want to do. And I think if you're one of those persons who said, well, Auburn shouldn't even be playing in it because of the level of talent, well, then you should have expected the most that Auburn would go through and run the table, and that they did. So yeah, Auburn wins it all, much to the chagrin of most of the country. I think they want to see the mid-major. But Auburn does exactly what they're supposed to do. And I think they did it. And I think it speaks a lot, truly, of Stephen Pearl and this team of showing with how much animosity came from in and outside the family toward them, for him to show that he can rally this team around him, and his coaching staff can rally this team after a huge disappointment of not making the tournament, to go and then bulldoze through it and look like the most complete team we've seen them play in almost a month. they go through and win it all. So congrats to them. It is an accomplishment. It is something to be celebrated. We all know it's not the ultimate goal, but it is shocking and surprising for Auburn, the fans that just don't want to celebrate this. To me, I just don't get it.
And I will go ahead and say this for those asking in the chat. Yes, you should be heading to Toomer's Corner right now if you have the capability to. The only reason Austin is not heading that way right now is because he's in his studio here in the show with us. But I'm sure with his
I'm not old, I would be there.
Well, I know you would, but let's be honest, it's a little late, and you're getting older, and you have two twin boys, and you have to make.
I got to go to work.
You do. So some of us have to go to work, I guess. Some of us, that have real jobs, I get it. Never mind. I'm not going to go down that road this evening.
There we go.
We're focused on this game. I think the thing that I don't want to say I love about this, because I wish Keyshawn Hall, Philip Jovic hadn't fouled out, but it almost adds to the juiciness of this. Not in like a shot to those guys, but they did it facing those difficulties. This team has had, from the season start of this tournament, mountain after mountain thrown in front of them, and sometimes they have fallen back down the face of the mountain, but they never stopped trying. And here, it's a smaller mountain than the national championship, but it's still a mountain. They have climbed it. They are victorious. And frankly, they did it with a lot of the guys that potentially may be back next year. Now, for those of you that are already moving on, asking who's coming back, just let us celebrate this for 2 seconds. Like, just everybody chill. 2 seconds. We don't have to start talking about the future quite just yet, but I'm so proud of this team. Very, very little second half. They went on another historical run of not scoring that very much mirrored the SEC tournament ending, with Tennessee going on like a 20-2 run. I think it was like an 18-2 run in this one.
I think we hit, it was 21-2.
Well, hey, listen,
21-4. I mean, it got close.
I would like to say I wasn't used to those type of slumps in the games, but as we just referenced, we've done that before. So they overcome all this, but you've got to give shout outs to everybody. But Kevin Overton has just emerged as this clutch player that I always hoped he was going to be. I mean, he's basically going to take the name from Logo Win or Wendell and be Logo or KO, I guess is what we could call him, or something. Logo KO. It kind of flows. Tahad had some great moments in this game as well. I want to give a shout out, even just a small way, to Sebastian Williams-Adams, because I, frankly, on the post-game shows, constructively, I hope it comes across, have been critical of his, even as a big man, inability to make both his free throws at times. He knocks 2 down in a crucial moment, and I'm in here just screaming in this office, in this studio. So I think you could pick anyone you want to go to on this roster, even Philip Jovic and Keyshawn Hall, who didn't have an outstanding game compared to what we're used to, but he had good moments in this too. This team overcame it all, Austin. And
I'll throw one more in there, and I think a lot of people love to question why he's getting minutes, question why in the world he's playing. But I thought Blake Michalek had an incredible defensive game. I thought his minutes, while they were small, he's not in there to score. Nobody's debating that. He's not in there to be the guy who's driving to the hoop, who's on the corner waiting for the shot. He's in there to be the defensive stalwart that he's been. And Tylen Riley, Tulsa's main point guard, could not get by him late in that game. And I think that's why you saw him in over Caden Magwood when Todd Pettiford's trying to get a breather. So Blake did his job. I think he has a role in this team. He knows what his role is, and he is the pesky defender that does a great job. So like you said, you mentioned the rest of them, but I think there are so many guys you could shout out for doing what they needed to do to step up throughout this game, especially, and then into overtime when they were down some key contributors. But all of that goes back to the coaching staff on making sure that they keep the guys together. That sounded like that was a key message late from the commentary on the broadcast, is preaching to stay together and do your job. And they did that. And now they're bringing home some hardware.
It's hardware. It's not as we've said 1,000 times, it's not the hardware that you necessarily want. The coaches said that openly. I thought was very kind of interesting in the actual press conferences for this NIT tournament thing. Said, we would rather be over there. Everyone understands it. It doesn't need to be just harped on so much. But the fact of the matter is that once they got over the disappointment of that, the disappointment of Keyshawn Murphy deciding not to participate with this team, which at this point you got to wonder, like, Keyshawn, what were we doing, buddy? Like, come on, we love you. I know I don't know all your information on why you made the decision. I grant you that benefit of the doubt to some degree, but they did it without you. Come on.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I love Keyshawn Murphy, but that's a little bit of, I can't imagine what the coach is, not just coach, but the coach is, the players or the staff of this team have to feel so validated for what they've overcome this season, the roster issues, the questions about them, is this a nepotism hire? And as Bruce said, yeah, of course it is. It's my son. He got the job. I helped him, get the job, but everyone's had something like that in their lifetime. If you haven't, that just means you haven't been blessed in that way. And I'm sorry that you haven't had that. And maybe that's where that jealousy comes from. I digress. Look, I think no matter how you slice this, everyone's going to try to paint this the way they want it to. If you want to paint it as you're only the 69th best team in the nation, so be it. That's fine. We could get into the tournament. That's the best we could reach to in terms of quote unquote people's perception of rankings. The fact of the matter is Auburn is the last team standing in the SEC playing postseason basketball and is the only team that ends with a win and a title of some fashion. Whether you like that or not, it is the reality of that. And so I'm said it 1,000 times already. I'm extremely proud of this team having the South Alabama game come in here with the regional ties there. You walk through Seattle, getting to, the big thing that we talked about, Austin, throughout this is how many different teams we've never seen before that we got to take off the list. So Seattle, Nevada came off the list, and then
was Illinois State on the list?
I believe Illinois State was on the list, if I'm not mistaken, because I think I even saw Clint, who we reference a lot with this, pointed out that if they were to upset, and they did, into the semifinals, that would be a new one for Auburn as well. I don't know about Tulsa, but I can't recall.
Not sure. I was trying to find the grid as you were talking.
But listen, this was a lot of cool storylines in this one about what Auburn had to overcome, the different teams that they've never faced before. And there were some, decent basketball teams in this. I'm not going to say that a lot of these teams should have been in the tournament, but you clearly saw with Tulsa what they're able to do, especially when they had the advantage of having two of Auburn's key players left out in the game. So there's still talent in this one. The title is there. I wonder, Austin, if I should even ask this question, but I know it's the most common question I was getting asked before it was even a reason to ask this. Do you know what I'm about to ask you? Should they hang a banner?
Oh, goodness.
He went open that door.
I think they will. I mean, I think that happens regularly.
Yeah.
I was perusing through some Tulsa posts before we got on, and I think they definitely would have hung a banner. And one fan said this is the most distraught loss he's ever experienced as a Tulsa basketball fan. So please just remember that, okay, Auburn fans, when you're trying to complain about why we do stuff like this. I think they'll hang a banner. I think that's something that you is done. And I think it is something to be accomplished. We've already talked about the things that are accomplished in this sport and why you celebrate things, whether you think they're big or small as the average fan with 38 followers. I think that it's important to make sure we celebrate what is. And this was a fun run. I don't know. I don't speak for everyone, but I think this was a fun run. And I think that it's something that is the NIT is something that is truly well regarded in the sport of college basketball. It just stinks to have been on this side of it when you thought you might get in.
Sure.
And I would say yes.
Yes, banner, but let's even take the word banner out of it. Like, I think the point people are trying to make is, why are you acknowledging this when it's not the thing that you're supposed to be competing? This is an accomplishment. You're basically diminishing what this team went through to get to this point, to end with a win on the season, which one other team in the nation will only be able to say that. Yes, it'll be for the national title tomorrow night because we're doing this on a Sunday night, but Auburn's the only other team in the nation that will end this season with a win. And that's an important thing to acknowledge with a banner and or whatever, just displaying a trophy in a trophy case, putting a thing on the wall or something like that, just a mural. I don't know. I'm throwing things out at this point. It's important to acknowledge what this team accomplished given what they went through.
And can I say this? I think that it'll be a compromise of two. I do not think it'll be a banner next to the Final Four banners and the same size. I think you're going to see, if you want to get technical, I think it's going to be the horizontal style size banner. It's not going to be on the front of the arena out there above Charles Barkley. Like, it's just going to be a banner you celebrate, just like you celebrate with the time they made it to the Elite Eight or the time they made it to Sweet 16. But it is an accomplishment, and I just think that that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, it should happen. Some form of acknowledgement. This team has earned it. The coaches, the head coach has earned it, given what the story has been this year, an up and down roller coaster year, and I think very much mirrored by the final game, giving up a very substantial lead with a very exciting, and can I just point out, a staple of a Pearl defense, of the inbounds defense, causing a 5-second penalty, and then obviously Auburn gets the 3, and then we go to overtime with 2 of the people held out and win the game. I don't know that you could have written a more exciting story other than this taking place and then the actual tournament. But regardless, proud of the Tigers. This has been an interesting season to follow, but no less at times satisfying. And we'll, I'm sure, break it down some more as time goes on. Now, believe it or not, unless you had something else you wanted to add there, Austin, about that,
ahead.
We do have some other basketball stories that we want to touch on. And I'm trying to manage our time here because we have such a long list of things here. I know we're going to do, and we're doing this late. I have to be mindful of Austin's time. I know, but I always try to be. I want to talk about real quick, because the people are going to kill me if I don't do something like this, because that's all we obsess about is predictions. I want to get some predictions from you, Austin. We're sitting here on the eve of a NIT championship. National title will happen tomorrow, and then the portal will open.
The season's body is just still warm,
but
and we're just
you understand. If I don't do this,
it's the way of life these days.
I hate it, but we have to play into these things sometimes. So I'm going to get, just like when we were going through the coaching search, we're going to give you a little something here. So I am going to let you try to push aside that celebration of the NIT and give me a percentage confidence of these players returning to Auburn basketball. And yes, this is entertainment for, I didn't prepare you for this one because I wanted you to be shocked. Let's go, Kevin Overton. Does he return to Auburn in the next season, second year under Steve?
I just got to say yes or no.
No, percentage confidence.
Oh my gosh!
Gut reaction.
No let's say 70%.
Oh, I love that.
I think KO comes back.
That's a big one for me personally, and just what I want. I kind of need it, but I'd be like 50-50 right now. He had such a good run that I'm wondering if he wouldn't be getting a lot of suitors, and I wouldn't blame him.
But the portal's not open yet, Kyle.
It is not open, but
he's not in the portal. How are people talking to him, Kyle?
I don't know, because maybe people go and scout players or just go watch them from seats.
Maybe someone was sitting courtside at our game.
I don't know. I mean, it'd be shocking to me that people do that type of thing. Kevin Overton. Okay. Let's go. Sebastian Williams-Adams.
50%.
I'm shocked by that. I was going to go 99% on that one.
Oh, okay.
Let's go Filip Jovic.
I think someone might overpay there.
Okay. Filip Jovic.
Like 90%, I think.
I will go 80% on him because, he's got here so late and stuff like that. You just never know what's important to him, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I'm not going to do everybody because I'm not going to bore. Let's do one that didn't get to play a whole lot. Caden Magwood.
20%.
Yeah, I'd say it wouldn't shock me. And I'm not saying that's a right or wrong decision for him, that if he wouldn't go find some other opportunities. And the big one, Tahad Pettiford. Blake Michalek. Yeah. Hey, we need that man and that defense back.
Blake will be back. Blake will be back. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody wanted him. Somebody wanted to give him some real minutes. But Tahad, I'll say 51%.
So you're just leaning into the positive category.
Yeah, I
of
think he
this.
could. I mean, I think just off the freshness of this, now there'll be people knocking down his door too.
Yep.
But I think Mr. 1,000 point scorer now could it'd be a lot of fun if he came back for another year.
It certainly would. I will go. I'm going to cop out here and just say straight 50 because I would not. I would. I'm just trying to think of if I'm his agent, I would tell him to go entertain offers or whatever. And just because he's shown down the stretch that he is who we thought he was. I almost messed that one up there. It's late. But I'll go straight 50%. I'm not ready to come with you on just the slight positive side of it. And I don't mean that in any malice or any like doom and gloom stuff. I love the kid. I think he's showed a lot of grit this year and I want him to do what's best for him. And I hope that includes Auburn. So there you go, folks. We have entertained the salivating masses. You have some predictions from Austin and I about the things that you're asking, but we talked about the banner. We talked about that. I got those in there. Other stories in basketball that we want to make sure that we hit. Big signee for Auburn because we can actually talk about and focus on these things.
Big
now for
in a lot of ways.
Season. In a lot of ways, a 7-footer from Francais coming on over to play with the Auburn Tigers, and I believe I'm pronouncing this right. We'll learn as time goes on. Narcisse Ngoy, I think is how you say it.
That's where I'd go.
And I went online and found some people try to pronounce. So Narcisse, if I'm doing that correctly, hey, listen, that's a point for me. If I didn't, I'll get it right. I promise. Big 7-footer coming on over. One of the big storylines of this year, Austin, was Auburn's perceived. And when I say perceived, I only mean the narrative that they can't be successful without big men. They just kind of proved that wrong tonight. They got some extra help for next year and getting it started before the portal activity started. I mean, I think this is a big win for Stephen Pearl already before that gets going here for his next year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that it was someone who was targeted because of his size, because of his experience being the big man that Auburn teams in the recent past have seen. They are most successful when they have a more dominant, true kind of classic presence of a big man. You look at Janai Brome and Walker Kessler, Dylan Cardwell. At 7 foot, that's one of the things you can't really teach is the height. And so at 7 foot, that's certainly part of it. I think he's had plenty of experience in the French league is what I understand. And now Kyle, I know there will be some who are upset that he's a professional. Now in your notes of Mr. Narcisse there, I just want to make sure I'm certain. Has he ever been in college before?
As far as I can tell in my notes, he has never been in college before.
Okay, let me check box 1. Has he ever declared for the draft before?
Last I checked, there is no notes of him in any NFL draft process or in an NBA draft. Either one.
We can check both of those boxes. And then has he ever signed 2 to 3 G League contracts to play and then played in said games before?
I did not see him in any of those G League games that I watched over the last couple of years.
Okay.
I'm lying with that.
Well, it looks like we're check boxes all there. So I just want to clear that up for any lurkers on the screen trying to make sure we contradict ourselves. So I think he'll be a successful addition. I think there's some things he'll have to work through getting into, just like Phillip did, getting into the college basketball a way of life and strength program, but it certainly seems like they're off to a good start.
Yeah. And I think one of the interesting things, if you're a big time college basketball fan, you'll note that some of the more successful teams this year had some very heavy international rosters, whether they were starters or not. So now right now, Phillip's here. We don't know if he will be, but Phillip obviously coming over from Eastern Europe. And then you add this one in from France as well. You're starting to get a little bit of that flavor in here, and you couple that with retaining a lot of your players and then hopefully, and then some nice additions in the portal. This is the start of a really exciting thing. And then let's not forget, Auburn also has one player in the class that they're bringing in for high school ranks as well. So don't let that go without thinking about that as well. But congrats to the staff.
Could be more international flavor. Could be more international flavor this week too. You never know.
Should I ask you what country we'd be looking at, or any takes on that?
No, I've always wanted to go to Lithuania.
Okay, well there you go. Lithuania it is. We'll book some tickets to the, the next time
after we go to
Auburn's over there
Hawaii, you
playing.
can take us to Lithuania.
Maybe so. All right, a story last week that you and I didn't get to talk about together, but is very important in this basketball space, and this should wrap us up for this segment, is the announcement of a new GM for Auburn coming over to be part of the team. And now Brian Cloman, obviously, I guess I should say his name before we go any further, coming over from the staff from Louisville, who was a tournament team and very respected part of that staff. And obviously if you've read some of the notes about him, he has connections with Steven. So already familiarity there. That's a big plus to knowing who you're working for, what they expect out of you, things like that. A lot of people were frustrated when Auburn took the NIT, again, champ baby, invitation, and said, well, we won't be able to focus on the portal. We forgot that the portal wasn't open. And so even if you're still right, I know we've already talked about it. Even if you still subscribe to that, knowing those facts that it wasn't going to really affect, and Steven even acknowledged it's not going to bother that necessarily, other than just prepping to be ready for that. Brian Cloman coming in before the tournament was even done is setting everything up with all his connections, all that stuff, and knowing how Steven already works with their familiarity. This was, a great, I think, piece of information for all Auburn fans, whether you wanted them in the NIT or not, because you can see that they are putting the work in for next year, if that's what ultimately you're worried about. So Brian Cloman is your new GM, and I'd imagine you're pretty excited about it too.
I am, yeah. And just to piggyback when you talk about the NIT, and one of the main reasons, I know we've already covered it, but one of the main reasons Stephen Pearl said, a key benefit to us playing through this is to talk to guys and us stay with who we want to retain. If Auburn packs it up and goes home, these guys are, spread out, going whoever goes wherever, talking to whoever. So we just talked about all those percentages on who's being retained, who's maybe convincing to stay. This certainly helps that process. Now you add in a GM and Brian Cloman, who has put together some pretty good rosters at Louisville, College of Charleston, and has followed Pat Kelsey kind of through his career. Now gets a chance to do it at Auburn and kind of is given the full reins to do that. I think with I think that work has definitely already begun. Like you said, he's been on the staff unofficially here for a while now. Did
he get any tickets anywhere behind any benches that I know about, or
not that I'm aware of?
Because apparently I didn't think you could do that. I thought that was something that was a problem.
Some get their underwear in a fit if you do, I guess. But I think that you'll see that that's going to be really beneficial for this staff and Steven to not have to worry about not having had that for this year. I like just looking at some of the rosters he's put together. It certainly looks like a fit of what Auburn tries to do. You look at Louisville teams and what they've tried to do. I think that matches up really well. I think too, something that's not been talked about a ton, but we've already seen the evidence of it, is Brian Cloman has some international flavor. He has he has picked guys from the international ranks and the scouts before. And a lot of that is so tricky because you have to trust the people you're talking to and have the scouts in those areas that you trust. Yeah. They don't measure they don't measure the way we do from a very statistical standpoint with the metric system. And what's the other one? Thanks. The European system. And so, but you have to trust. There's not as much film out there, so you have to trust guys that you believe are out there with them. I think the story, and not that it really mattered, we love Filip Jovic, and he's obviously been a player. But I think the story is he was a couple inches shorter than Auburn was expecting when he gets off the plane. I want to say Bruce said that, and so I think that you have to really trust who you're seeing, and they can be hits or misses. We've already seen with Narcisse Ngoy that Brian Cloman has already picked someone up from the international flavor. I think you might continue to see more of that. So I think it's a really good hire for Auburn. It's a position you need in this day and age. They chose that with Matt Gatens. Bruce Pearl decides to retire, and Matt Gatens moves to the coaching role. And now you have Brian Cloman stepping into that GM role to manage the roster, manage the payrolls, all that good stuff that we're now in with college athletics. And I really look forward to seeing how he attacks this first portal season, this first retention season, and where this roster looks here in a month or two.
And if you think about it too, with you brought up Matt Gatens, certainly he's a coach now position, but that was his role, or at least part of his role previously. And so you've already got two guys on staff that was their, at least for a time, speciality, one currently and one formerly. So you couple that with, the great recruiting that's been done by this staff that's still together, minus Bruce. You got to, if you're looking at everything in context, not operating off emotions, you should feel really good about where Auburn sits, even regardless of them going and winning an NIT championship, participating in that. So I think the vibe should be pretty strong, other than the win for the NIT. The preparation that people were worried about, it is certainly there. And the best sign of that was GM Kloman being brought in from, again, Louisville, a tournament team. So welcome to him to Auburn. That should do it for some basketball talk, unless we forgot anything there. We would now want to move into some other major topics. We'll spend our next segment talking about football stories. Certainly the big things right now are what's coming out of practice, and of course, no one is developing any major narratives.
Never.
No. I mean, I heard nothing about how someone throws or things like that. And nothing at all. But I mean, I think it's important for if you're a fan, to go and take a look at the pressers, the Q&As, the interviews that are being done by players. Several media places are putting those out. We put out the ones that are available for the athletic department. I always encourage you, if you're an Auburn fan, do yourself a favor, do your own research. Don't have to listen to talking heads like me and Austin. He talks better. I don't. And
big heads, as our people like to remind us.
Yes. Well, that's why I wear a hat. Check all those things out. A couple of things that I think we probably want to talk about, and some of this is holdovers from last week when we weren't together. I want to bring up Mr. Sigler, defensive lineman for Auburn. He's a D2 guy. A lot of talk about him early, even before practice started, about how excited the staff was about him. Can I point you to two players, Austin, that I want to make I guess you can say it's a prediction, but comparison maybe is the better word. You'll remember that Jalen McLeod and Keyron Crawford came up from not D2. I'll grant you that. And I mean, I don't know where they started. I don't remember all that far back, but they came from non-Power 5 teams and then came to Auburn and had pretty successful times. Both of those on the edge, I will grant you. And this is with Mr. Sigler, is a little bit different. I mean, same defensive lineman-ish type of position. He started D2, came from Arkansas State. Am I right in that? If I've got that correct on that one?
Yeah, D2?
I think he started at D2, if I'm not mistaken.
That's where Keyron came from, right? Oh, before Arkansas State. That's what you mean?
Yeah, before Arkansas State. So, yeah, I think I've got there's a little bit of crossover there, keeping all of those three guys straight. But regardless, my point in this, we saw on this defensive line some guys that a lot of people had questions about. Were they ready for power SEC football? Could we be looking at Sigler as potentially the next Keyron Crawford, the next McLeod? Any thoughts on that?
I think he could definitely have that impact. If I remember right, I think he's more of an interior guy. So more not quite the same exactly apples to apples fit, but I think he could have that impact. I think to me, he just looks like a big old grizzly bear. Just looks like an absolute animal. And seems to just really love to get in the dirty and play down there in the trenches. And so I think you're definitely right. It sounds like Alex Golish and this staff love him and love that he is that kind of bear mentality. And I look forward to seeing him. I do not think it is too much of a stretch to say that he could have the same impact from with Jalen McLeod or Keyron Crawford that those guys had when they came in. And it might take a year or two. I think that we saw that with both those guys. That first year was good. The second year was a step up and where they really got their notoriety. But I definitely think it's a possibility that Cody Sigler is one we're talking about that was a much underrated transfer when he signed, but ended up being a big piece.
Yeah. So whether it's this season, next season, as you said, is someone that's getting called out by the staff, by his teammates. And he seems to be a high energy guy too. So it's just one of those correlations I try to make to make folks, see this has happened before. It stands to reason it could happen again. So somebody maybe for you all to pay attention to. Let's talk about the first scrimmage at night in Jordan-Hare Stadium. I don't recall the first scrimmage in Jordan-Hare in spring practice being at night a whole lot. Do you?
I was surprised when I saw it. No,
but I kind of love it. It sets a certain tone because the expectation at Auburn is for us to be a successful program. And when you're a successful program, you more often than not get selected for playing, at least getting into the your night games are starting in the afternoon, and you end up at night at that point, the prime time games, right? So I'm not saying that's the direct decision behind why this decision happened to play at night, but I kind of wonder if that was a little bit of the thought process behind it, because like we said, we've not seen this before. I think there are a couple of notes or things, maybe stories that we could talk about that came out of that. Nothing you should be building significant things off of, but is there anything that, whether it was that or anything from practice this week, that you wanted to mention that was off the top of your mind?
Well, that was on top of my mind just because I don't see that. You don't see that very often, and especially at Auburn. It's normally the Saturday morning scrimmages.
Sure.
And I think that when you see that even them promoting it as a scrimmage, and that was another thing. I don't remember Auburn social athletic accounts ever promoting or highlighting that there's a scrimmage today. That it's normally just kind of, we find out from media or when there's a press conference, or the highlights as the week goes on. But I think that the promoting it as a scrimmage and expecting these guys who maybe haven't played regular games in a stadium that big, or a stadium with that kind of juice and what they've heard of Jordan-Hare Stadium, gives them a little bit of that feel. Sure, it's empty. Sure, it's more to focus on the X's and O's, but it gives them a feel of what could be and what to come. And look, when then you guys bring out big guys like Takeo Spikes and Cam Newton, the moment starts to set in a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's probably the other thing that we need to mention a little bit is Coach Golish talks this week about the desire to make concerted efforts to encourage the former players come back. They had a alumni day. Cam now has been back to Keo's, as you brought up, a couple of others as well, to instill in these guys, obviously what they could potentially be, that being the current team, but also to show them, look, I mean, you're just as much as part of this program as you were in the past now, and you come invest in that. So there's a lot of discussions about that. There was I think this was the first meeting ever between Byron Brown and Cam Newton, and boy,
it looked like it.
Yeah, that was the way I took it. I think that's the way it was talked about. But as soon as you saw that video shared, and let's be honest, the social media account team knows what they're doing. They're stirring up the conversation, which is their job. The comparisons already start. And I think, can we just wave a caution flag and say, everybody, hold on. Stop comparing everybody to Cam Newton. Not everybody is going to be Cam Newton. Let him be him. Let Byron be him. We're excited, right? And when you see one of the greatest of Auburn meeting what everybody hopes to be one of the maybe single season players have a great season as well, you can understand the excitement, Austin, just a little bit.
Well, you can understand it, and right or wrong, everyone that's come since Cam has been getting compared to him, whether it be just physical stature alone or their talent. But I will say, when I saw that video come out, I think it made me realize I didn't realize how big Byron was. There are not many people that can just look Cam Newton in the eyeballs and shake his hand eye to eye, and he certainly was able to do that. And so, like you said, they know what they're doing. They certainly understand the conversations that may come from a clip like that. But it was certainly eye opening.
It was, and certainly some people took and ran with it, but that was exciting. And certainly Cam got on camera with some comments that he made at a workout he had the next morning with, I don't know. I don't know if I ever got the official transcript of it, but there were a lot of people talking about that, people were making reference, was it into talking about current players, if they're not showing up and showing out, get rid of them, or I don't know that we should spend much time on it, but I know that was a talking point out there.
It was. What I took from it is it stems from the frustration that of any other Auburn fan is Cam wants to win, and Cam's tired of seeing Auburn, the Auburn he loves. Some of you still can't get your mind around that he has a love for Auburn. The Auburn that he loves is just not, they haven't performed up to what he expects and what he wants. And I think he, in his own Cam Newton specific way, was articulating that.
He was. And so that added a little bit of spice, I think, to this week. The only other note from practice that I wanted to bring up, You and I have talked about this. People who follow our content have heard it nauseam. We talk about Auburn is not going to be successful until it finds continuity and reliable, consistent play for the offensive line. And while you can't take a whole lot away from spring, we're going to probably walk away at the end of this spring with a 2 deep, as Coach Golis has said. You're starting to get to know a few of the new pieces that are there. You know about the ones you brought up from USF. We've talked about them previously, like Cole Best. But a couple of these other ones that have come in, Jack Glayer, I want to bring up his comments. And I think I'm putting the quote to, or phrasing that I'm going to say that he put out there in an interview this week. Someone asked him, how did you feel like this particular practice they had just got done having? How did it end? And he goes, frankly, not very good. And to be honest with you, I think you can take that a couple of different ways. Hit the panic button again, or, and I'm not saying other offensive linemen haven't been honest in the past, but it was nice to hear even a new guy, hopefully a leader for this team, just saying we got to be better about how we finish this segment or this practice over here, because that's kind of what's been missing, is not a complete game, not a complete season from an offensive line unit. And so one guy in 1 year, that's encouraging. You're also hearing encouraging things from guys like Joe Simmons as well, who's a new face too. So, I mean, I don't know if you've heard anything else that encourages you about the offensive line, but I know that's a concern for a lot of people out there. And so it's something maybe to talk about in that realm.
Yeah, well, it kind of echoed the statement that I don't know if we talked about this before I was out or not, but it echoed the statement of the week or the day that Golish came on and said today was not good. Like the energy was bad.
A bomb
so I think
is what he said.
A bomb went off,
and it needed to go off. He said,
and I think that you see these guys who are new, but that were kind of handpicked by the new staff, come in and are adopting that, or excuse me, similar mindset and similar mentality or verbiage that we have to be, for lack of a better word, perfect, and that our mentality each practice is how we will do and how we will eventually play in games. And they recognize that even in late March, early April, it's not up to snuff. And those are new guys coming in. So I think it bodes well for the culture and bodes well for what this team ends up wanting to be, which, if you haven't heard, the buzzword is elite. And so we'll see.
Don't start.
And I know. Look, they're saying it, not me. They're saying
it. I know. Watch the clip from last week. That's awesome.
But they're all seem to coming in that alignment and seem to be coming into one mindset of what they need to be. And for the offensive line specifically, like you and I have said for years, that the sooner that can come, the better.
Yes, absolutely. And so whether it's encouraging words, getting to know the new offensive line guys here, more and more will come out as practice continues on, marching towards that 8A. This is the final note in this segment, but I'd be remiss if we didn't bring this up. Lot of discussion this week about a certain segment they had in practice known as the Iron Bowl. If you know how football practices typically are made, and especially at the college level, they have periods is what they're called. And that, that can be set up around, warming up periods or certain positional drills or offense and defensive drills. And then, not, I want to say scrimmaging drills, but, 7-on-7 type thing situations, depending on how they like to lay it out. Well, the staff this year saw fit to name one of those periods the Iron Bowl, and a certain song that Auburn will be hearing this year when they go to that dumpster of a town in Tuscaloosa a lot, I'm sure. Dixieland Delight was being blasted across that. A lot of discussion about that. Some Auburn fans loved it. Some Auburn fans hated it. Some Alabama fans ran with it and made it out to be this bigger thing than it was. I have my opinions about it, Austin. Anything you'd like to say?
Well, about anything in this topic?
About anything in this topic, really, that you'd like to.
Well, first of all, the song is about the state of Tennessee. Second of all, I don't understand why they've claimed it as their own, especially when they add such vulgar profanity throughout of it. And third of all, I don't think it doesn't really matter to me at all what people are saying about why Auburn makes their practice section the Iron Bowl or why they focus on it so much. If you don't think that Alabama doesn't also focus on the Iron Bowl, you're lying to yourself. Now, just because you don't hear about how they do it or just because you don't hear about how they have a practice segment named the Iron Bowl does not mean it doesn't happen. And I would be willing to bet a good bit it happens. Now, whether or not their coaching staff has also leaned into the idea that it matters and is important, I can't tell you, but you would be remiss to tell me that that staff, that fan base does not want to win the Iron Bowl as much as Auburn fans do. So with that said, I think that it's really not that big of a story. I think that it shows more that the staff is willing to show that they're trying to blend into the community and blend into what is important to Auburn. Winning that game is important to Auburn. Winning that game is important to Alabama. And so to recognize what the intensity of it would take, we just got done saying that there's a lot of new players on the staff, new coaches on the staff, that we're all wondering, do they have what it takes? Do they grasp what it means to play big boy SEC football? Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't get any more big boy SEC, big boy college football than the Iron Bowl. So understanding that they have to give it all they got and what it takes to win that game, and they've dedicated a practice segment to it, I don't mind that at all.
I think it's just smart. If you're going to hear this in the environment, especially as an away game this year, why wouldn't you spend an entire segment of your practice blasting that for the sake of familiarizing yourself with it? So it's just not something that ever they even think about, but just so that you can, I want to hate to say it, but vibe with it and learn to just play with it, but I know it doesn't play during the thing, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. This is all part of preparation, and it's no different if who knows if they've already done it, play Rocky Top, because they'll be in Knoxville this year. But because it's Auburn and Alabama, it's a thing.
Yes. And well, that's what I was going to say. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. They could be blaring the Bluey theme song. They could
wow.
They could be blaring the Paw Patrol theme song. Like, it doesn't matter, because you shouldn't be, if you're on the field in the moment, it's loud. Like you said, it's loud in Knoxville. It's going to be loud in Starkville. It's going to be loud wherever you play. But the music and the words is not the point. The focus that you can have when there's all these outside noise, and whether it be music, fans, cowbells, whatever, is how you perform in that moment when you have to focus everything you've got, not on the exterior, but on what you're doing. And so, Coach, if you need the Bluey soundtrack, I've got it. You just let me know. I'm willing to figure out how to make practice 7 of each segment. So just let me know.
Should we do the Bluey segment with Georgia, since we're heading to Athens? Is that how that works?
Yes, I'm in.
I did not expect Bluey to come out of this segment, but there you have it. The Iron Bowl segment is a part of practice. And listen, you can make a big deal about it if you want. I'm just happy that team's putting a focus on every aspect that they can for this upcoming season. All right, we have a bunch of stuff that we want to run through really quickly here. And if you kind of know how our shows traditionally work, this is Auburn potpourri, and we had to do it on the back end because we had something to celebrate at the beginning of this. So let's start with some baseball stuff. A bit of a mixed bag week, ending on a good note. Here in Atlanta, they were playing Georgia Tech, and the losing streak continued with old Georgia Tech looking like the top 5 team that they have been consistently all season, and putting the run rule walloping 13-3 on Auburn. But we can move on from that, Austin, if you'd like to, because Auburn bounced back with a SEC series win over the Arkansas Razorbacks, who I think earlier in the season were much highly ranked. Similarly was Auburn, which, can we just mention for a second? Some of y'all's rankings out there, y'all drop people like flies, or certain teams, and don't drop others as well. But
I thought Auburn and Arkansas both got dropped way too far. But
now you could point to if that rankings hadn't changed before the Georgia Tech series, you could, okay, well then that's a big drop off. But anyway, that maybe they're saying that, that's why we just knew that was going to happen that way. But what we want to focus on primarily is not necessarily your mistakes, but how you respond. Beating Arkansas at home, winning the series 2-1 games, 10-2 in the first game, 2-3 in the second game. A little bit of frustrations there with the lack of bats has been storyline at some times, but then finishing out strong, 8-3 in a very interesting week where they're playing Thursday Friday and Saturday. So your pitching is off a little bit. So I want to pitch this over to you. I have been doing so many puns lately without even trying. I would like to pitch this over to you. Andres Alvarez gets pushed up into the Thursday slot as opposed to playing in the midweek game, which frankly needed him a little bit. And gets his first SEC series start and helps contribute to that win there. So I thought that was a really cool storyline. And if you understand why they did that, Coach explained it, that this was more to maintain the flow of how this traditionally happens on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so they could play Marciano on Friday and so on and so forth. So that was a really cool thing to start off the series. It was Alvarez's first career start, and he pitch so well in that game. So that was really cool.
Yeah, first career SEC start. Yes, I think that I've been a big fan of Andres Alvarez. I thought that, especially even going back to last year versus Coastal, he did phenomenal. He's been, outside of not Nebraska, who's the Cincinnati game. Yeah. He's been a big Auburn pitching staff and has been vying for that SEC weekend staff rotation, and got his chance because of the wonky schedule. We've talked about it in a lot, but Auburn has an abundance of pitching talent. They're just trying to figure out what helps them the most. When you talk about Christian Chatterton and Andreas Alvarez, guys who kind of have to be the midweek because Auburn's weekends, the guys have been so good. Now you get a weird wrench thrown in here where you can tinker with some things, and then it ends up moving Jackson Sanders to be a long relief guy in the bullpen to help out Petro on Sunday or this week on Saturday. I think you're going to see this again. I think you're going to see this again this week. I think you're going to see Saturday night. And then Kentucky, I think I would not be surprised if you see Andres Alvarez on Saturday next week, and Jackson Sanders and Petro go in tandem on Sunday again. I think what Auburn can do to keep those four and work in a 4-man rotation due to a 3-game series helps them in the long run a lot. So long as it's working. Obviously, if things don't start working again, you go back to what it was, you got to do that to shift. But I think that if they can keep all these guys getting big innings and getting long innings, it prepares you most for the regional and for the NCAA tournament. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this works. Congrats to Andres Alvarez. I think he's an incredible talent, and I'm proud of him and excited to me. He got his big spot on the SEC stage.
Yeah, excited for him. And certainly if you're an Auburn baseball fan, the pitching hasn't really worried you too much. Maybe at times there's been a few slip-ups here and there. But the bats have been a little bit concerning at times leading up into that Georgia Tech game this week, but they bounce back, at least for the majority of the weekend. Like we said, that middle game is a little bit to be desired there because only getting the 2 runs and a 2-3 loss. Where are you sitting at with the bats right now after the Arkansas series? Do you think they just went through a slight slump, or is this going to be an issue all season?
They seem to really like playing at Plainsman Park. They seem to come a little bit more alive there. I don't know what it is.
But they got off to a great start in Atlanta, like 3 runs right away, and then it just
it simmered. And that's a place where it historically has been known for, if you can just get it in the air, it'll go.
Yeah.
And it did for Tech. It just didn't for Auburn. And so, I don't know. I think that they've adjusted some things. I think that you're seeing them tinkering in the lineup and not the rotation, the order of the lineup a little bit. But I think that they're just trying to figure out what works and get guys going. I listened to a local radio show this week talking about, what a lot of these guys that are sophomores now that we expected so many big things from, people are really down on. And if you look at the numbers, they're really doing exactly what they did last year. It's just, it was such a surprise. And it's it came on to be where we thought they might take an even bigger step. And we're at the point now where without Ike Irish, without these power bats, we kind of need them to take that bigger step. And it just hasn't come quite yet. And so I think it's a long season still left to go. You've got a good week to kind of figure that out. But I think they're going to end up needing Bub Terrell and needing Chris Rimber and needing some of these Eric Guevara, some of these guys to kind of consistently get into the power at bats and taking good at bats. That's not to diminish the offense in a whole. Bristol Carter's been great. Chase Fralick's been great. The McCranes kind of balance each other out. One has a good game, the other has a good game. So I think they've got a chance to set this thing right. And if they can get it all, it's all about timing. If they can get it all going at the right time, it'll be special.
Yeah, and hard to maintain the top 5 level of play that they've been ranked for all season. Maybe it seems a little bit easier for others, but these things ebbs and flows. I know a lot of you hate this phrase. It's a long season. Settle in. Auburn just bounced back with an SEC win, which is going to do well for them come postseason time, especially for seeding and things like that. All you can do is focus on each game and each weekend series and take everything in stride. But they're victorious this weekend. So there's some Auburn baseball talk right there. We got a series of things that we would just bounce through because we started off this show, Austin, celebrating a championship. We're going to keep the energy going with recognizing the other basketball championship for Auburn this weekend, and that is the first ever wheelchair basketball national title for that team here at Auburn, the club team. Obviously not a NCAA team, so people oftentimes aren't aware, and you should be of that, because if you know anything about the sport, you should know the name Rob Taylor, their head coach, who's been part of the national team, won gold over there, things like that. You kind of have this sports royalty already here. But you know what makes it sweeter? Winning the first national title for Auburn wheelchair basketball? It means beating the number 1 seed and your rivals, Alabama. It could have gotten any better, Austin. Let's be honest. So congrats to them, and let's dance on Alabama's grave a little bit here.
That's totally fine with me. I saw that was I saw the preview graphic for that game, and I thought, first off, it is a big deal. It's a massive deal to have that be the rivalry, be the national championship. I naturally wondered, could you imagine? I started applying it to all the other sports, right? Could you imagine? And I don't know if I could take it. I don't know what this post-game show episode would look like if that happened.
Yeah.
That I have a feeling that if my camera wasn't already fuzzy, because it usually is, it would be just ballistic. It'd be blown up. So, but congrats to them. It sounded like they just had an absolute great showing and dominated. I think it's Philip Crane is usually on our social feeds a good bit, highlighting and
Philip Crane. Yeah.
Yes, being excited about that team and always keeping us in the loop. So congrats to them. A good friend of mine, Noah Griffith, is also part of that team and associated with them. So congrats to them, and well-deserved, and way to bring it home. I think they rolled tumors today. So hopefully that added to the festivities.
And I'll be honest with you, I was kicking myself. And I probably could have used a little bit of a downtime from the ride I had today, that we passed just a little bit late to go to the celebration, because I would have just stopped in there and jumped in there and celebrated with them. Because I don't care what sport it is, what moment, the stick of this show is what David House said, the whole of the Auburn experience. We should be out there celebrating every single accomplishment, every special moment. And what a special moment for wheelchair basketball team, Rob Taylor, the head coach, all of them that are associated with that program. First national title over Alabama. Couldn't get any better, and congrats to them. A couple other things that we want to hit before we head out of here. I think we can probably squeeze in 2 more here that are let's do it. I want to talk with Austin about this. It was a last week thing. Look, we have some great players in Auburn baseball history, and you'll know the main names, the Tim Hudsons, the Frank Thomases, the Greg Olsons, and many others. Some of them have made their way onto certain walls, War Eagle Wall out there. Well, as was announced a week ago, there will be one more added out there to that wall of honor, and that is the bringer of rain himself. One glorious season with the Atlanta Braves, Josh Donaldson, rightfully so, after all that he's done for Auburn as a player, all that he has given to Auburn in terms of supporting the program post that. All of that to be said, well-deserved. Josh Donaldson will be on the War Eagle Wall from this, well, when they put it up. I'd say from this day forward, but it hasn't popped up there yet. I think they'll probably do a special ceremony.
I think it was the Georgia series which is the final series of the regular season. So that'll be a really special. That's always the last weekend of the regular season for Auburn baseball. You have like graduation going on that week too. So it's always a big weekend, but you'll add this to it. Josh Donaldson gets his number 4, I believe, up on the War Eagle Wall out there, next to some greats. And if you saw the video with John Cohen and Butch Thompson this week telling Josh, there's been a multitude of things that he has done for this program, obviously just being from Auburn and representing Auburn on the biggest stage, but also just in giving back and supporting and coming back into town. And I think Bush Thompson mentioned it. There are many guys in that dugout who still know that Josh Tomlinson went to Auburn, and what a big name he is. So well-deserved. Really looking forward to seeing him back in Auburn. And it's kind of one of those that when they announced it, I was like, man, that hasn't happened yet. And you just hadn't realized it.
Yeah, it felt like maybe I wouldn't say it should have happened. We get in these debates all the time. When should somebody's number be retired? All that kind of stuff. There's a reason these things are done in a certain time frame, but you want to let things breathe and all that kind of stuff. You knew that this was some type of honor was coming for him, and it just makes sense to add him out there to the wall, especially the way the program's trending right now and all the attention and the eyes on it. We're letting people know, hey, this isn't just a fluke. Auburn's been doing great things, and Auburn players have been doing great things for a long, long time. The only perfect thing, Austin, and I hate to rain on the parade here, but what if the day of the unveiling of that, it rains? I mean, could there be anything more poetic for the bringer of rain is if we get a little bit of that, a little rain shower?
It would be poetic. It'd be annoying that we'd probably sit through a delay too. I'd have to be honest with you, unless we can get a dome that weekend. I think we need him to not bring the rain.
Don't put it past that fan experience team. They have put some things up very quickly, so you might have just given their next great idea out there at Plainsman Park. But hey, whenever it happens, however it happens, high time that he gets the honor, and so glad that he's going to be having that soon. Last thing we'll probably hit tonight, it will move some things to next week. We would be remiss if we didn't point out to you once again that Auburn men's golf, stop me if you heard this, Auburn men's golf and Jackson Coiven have won another tournament this season. So let me remind you of what's been happening this season and previously. Auburn has, done great things in seasons past, and Jackson Coiven has been one of the best out there. But this season, Jackson Coiven especially is just on a little bit of a tear here. Auburn men's golf at the Mason Rudolph tournament this past week got the win, which would be their fourth as a team of the year and the fourth for Jackson Coiven of the year, which brings his total of all his tournaments he's participated in Auburn to 9. And he was already the winningest in men's golf program history for individual titles. He's just saying, you know what, I'll just add on top of this now and making it impossible for anybody to catch him at this point. Austin, do you remember what your prediction was for?
Did I say 5?
I think you said, was it for the season I had you predict, or how many would he end his career with? Do you remember?
Oh, no, I thought we said how many more.
For the season.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you said 5, you got one more to go, and you still got several tournaments, including postseason play. So
did we not say 5? I thought we said how many more from that point on, and we counted the weekends.
From that point on.
And I think I said 5 from that point on, and there were like 7 weekends left. I was gonna go ahead and give you close to your win already, but if you want to make it even more difficult, I mean, it's not like you're reaching. I'll go back.
Jackson's probably gonna win.
I mean, I know. I mean, I feel like I gave him the benefit of the doubt on most of those weekends and just gave him, hey, maybe he'll have a cold one weekend. But nothing stopped him this week, and nothing stopped Auburn as a whole, and especially him. And I thought that, I saw the leaderboard and the team leaderboard and put it out there, and I wondered, I'm like, do people think that this is just normal? Because we don't celebrate enough. Like, do people think that these courses, like all these college golf kids are good? And then you look at the end and you see Ball State. They shot 70 over as a team the weekend. Yeah. Like the quote that I saw about it was like, I hope they had fun. Like, I hope they had a good time out there. I hope Ball State had fun because you got Auburn at 20 something under, 24, 25 under, and then Ball State at 70 over. Like, this is hard to do. It's a game that I'm not good at. I don't play it, but it seems very hard to do. And Auburn makes it look easy. So enjoy it.
Well, and let me just put all this together here. We're celebrating the team and Jackson Coiven. We're spending a little time on Jackson because of how incredible of a run he's having this season and his career in general. But you're only a good team if you have more than just one good player, and they do. They've had great runs here with Caden Pope. Uzziah Gilbert has been around here for a while as well. Jake Albert on there, and then there's others as well because they run about 6 guys, I think, out there that score, 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, listen, if you're not locked in on Auburn men's golf and women's golf too, they've been having a pretty nice run here too. You need to be, because a lot of people who've been lamenting, hey, the big sports have not been living up to their expectations a lot. Folks, for those of you that think that things aren't going well in the sports program, that means you're not paying. You're kind of revealing your lack of indulging in the full of the Auburn experience, because there's a lot of good things going on. Men's golf, Jackson Coyven is just one of those. And so, Austin, we'll see if you end up being correct with 5 more by the end of the season. He's well on his way at this point.
I got 1. I just need 4 more.
You just need 4 more. And I think there's still plenty left. So you're good to go, sir. All right. Well, we're going to call that a show, episode 167 of the Auburn Experience. It was an interesting one with a celebration at the start and even more celebrating at the end as we went down. I want to reiterate this again, folks. For those of you chicken littles out there that are saying the sky is falling at Auburn athletics, you are just not paying attention. You are revealing your own ignorance. I give you that a lot of the big sports disappointed you this year in some ways. One of them redeemed themselves, I think, a little bit. Let's acknowledge that. But all that to be said, that's what we're here for, the Auburn Experience, to help you know sports, culture, and family. Austin, I'll pitch it to you first. Where can people find you?
Yeah, at Austin G. Scott on most things. Hope everyone has a happy Easter. Continue to remember he is risen.
He is risen indeed. If you want to keep up with me, the best way to do that is on social media through E2C Network stuff. The direct messages are open on most of those accounts, if not all. And then our email is e2cnetwork@gmail.com. With that being said, I want to remind you, the Auburn Creed asks you to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God, especially on this week. We hope you will do the same. Thanks for joining us on War Eagle.
War Eagle.